Hello, everybody, and welcome to Step into the Pivot. We are so happy to have you here. It is a brand new year, 2026, which I totally can't believe it, Evie, that we are in our third year of working together on these podcasts. And we have,
High
I know,
five.
total high five. Yeah, we have so many more amazing guests. I mean, they just keep coming, right? So I
It
think
is
it's
so
amazing that we
great.
can still do this.
I love the fact that, we have created a sense of community and people are listening to each other's stories and connecting outside of obviously our podcast and pinging each other. And then we've got people raising hands to come and tell their story. And it's just amazing. And no story is the same, right?
No
Everyone
story is
has
the
their own.
same. Everybody, I say it all the time, right? Everybody has their own journey. Everybody has their own
Yeah.
story. And I really think some people were like, nobody want to hear my story, but we do. We want to hear your story. So if you have an amazing story, of course we would love to hear it. We were talking, we didn't really have an idea for recording this podcast, and we were talking today, and I think it became very clear to us that one of the things we should talk about as we're starting a new year is to have some clear intentions. Um, it's so funny because I wrote a blog post about that, and you were talking about that on the retreat you just held, about how you talked about that. And I was like, that's the idea. That's what we should really focus on.
Yeah, we also learned that, all of our guests, as we've been interviewing them, there are a few things that they all did as they were working through their pivots, as they were working through their difficult stories. And every one of them, in some ways, talked about being intentional and getting to that point in life where they realized there's so many different things I can't control. Things happen and I'm helpless over them. However, there are some experiences, internal states that I have the ability to impact and influence. And then let me get like really clear on that and make some changes. So that's one of the big things that we've learned, one of the gems we've had everybody share is get
Yeah.
intentional about your life.
Yeah. And I know, like, when I'm struggling with something, right, that it really works for me to sit back and think about what my intention is, to be really precise, really clear, and to really make sure it's aligning with my values, right? It helps me stay true to what really matters to me, whether that's something related to my family, whether that's something related to my personal growth, my career, my health, right? So we're going to talk about some of those today, which I'm super excited to hear you talk about. It's like vision boarding, right? We talked about that too. And the other thing I think I find with being really clear my intention is it gives me some presence, right? Something I might have been stressed out about, but instead of being stressed, I can be really present when I set that intention, right? And have it really align with my goals, again, with my values, right? I think it just helps me to see more clearly.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you can really from there be in a place of motivation to take an action and really put some of these things in motion because we know that none of the vision boards are going to jump off of the page on their own and really express themselves in your life unless you actually go ahead and do something.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes people think that setting intentions is this process that's completely just one afternoon, here I am, totally internal, meditating. Lovely. That's so great. And I find the secret sauce is aligning. So, what are my values? Being really clear on that. What does that look like in terms of my life across different areas of my life? Having that internal conversation before you jump into action is absolutely the prerequisite. Unless you become present with your life and these different areas of focus, you won't be able to, really
Yep.
deliver on the goals that you set. So getting really clear first, absolutely necessary. And then finding some way to really summarize that for you so that as you keep going, you can remind yourself of the values and the intentions that you set. So
Yep.
having some kind of a way of summarizing for you or reminding yourself, really key. But then you got to go ahead and do it. You have to get clear on what actions am I going to take in support of
Yeah.
the vision, in support of my um, my intention. So
Yeah,
those are like,
I think you're totally right, right? For me, I have to write it down and then I have to
mhm,
think through what that looks like. But everybody's
mhm.
different, right? It could be any number of things. So we're going to talk today about six different things that should think about as we start this new year to help ourselves be clear in our intentions. They're about our well-being, right? Whether you look at all six in your life or pick one that's really important to you, you do what works for you. So can I have you jump into the deep end with number one?
Yes. So, you know how I was saying, okay, get to know yourself and then ask yourself some questions across different areas of your life. Is this working? Does it need attention? And you can think of this as related to that very classic, life coach tool called the Wheel of Life. If you look that up, you can search it. It's all over the internet. And one fun thing I recommend doing is just adapt these categories so that they fit your own life and your own definitions of what matters to you. But here's a very sort of generic way to think about the different categories we should pay attention to, based on also work that I've done with real people. And the first one is physical well being. So we're using the word well being, you can totally use the word health. Physical body. What does your physical body need? How are you doing physically? Are you happy with what, is happening in terms of your strength, in terms of your flexibility, in terms of any particular, situations that may need to be addressed? Perhaps you don't know. Maybe it's time for that annual exam. Maybe it's time to really go deal with that niggly thing that may not be, life threatening, but it could turn into a problem. So tune into what does my physical body need and what's my relationship there. One area, okay? And I think that, this is something that we've covered a lot on the podcast, especially with our wonderful guests who were willing to talk about their breast cancer journey, like the
Yeah,
importance of tuning
yeah,
to what's going on there. It can really be,
yeah.
life-saving, right?
We've had a lot of people who've talked about health journeys, right? And things. And it's something that I think is so important and that we put off sometimes, right? Because, oh, I don't have time for that now. I don't need to do that now. And I also think a lot of that is just taking care of yourself on a daily basis, whether, we talked a lot about going out for your walk every day or whatever is important to you, right? To give yourself that time to take care of yourself, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. So may I show you how I vision board these
Yeah,
days?
I'd
Because
love to.
we developed that tool, conscious leadership tool, courage cards. We put together 54 different principles and then basically turn them into pieces of art. There's a piece of writing on the back of the card. There is the art with the affirmation on the front of the card. But the 54 together are these principles that if you start living by them, your life's going to get better. That's kind of a very short way to describe it. So I've been playing with them because they're like a vision board tool literally in my back pocket. So I want to show our guests, those who are watching on YouTube, you'll see it, but I'll describe also the card. We'll put also an
Yeah,
image of all of this in the show notes.
yeah,
When I'm thinking about 2026 and my physical well-being, I then get clear on what I really want to experience and where I want to grow and I want to amplify this in my life is a sense of strength and suppleness and flexibility. So, as some of you know who listened to some of our previous episodes, uh, I too was on a health journey in 2024, in particular, in the start of 2025. And then, as a result of that, got better, but lost strength. So I'd love that back. And I'm pulling the card called Strong is Supple. It has an image of bamboo. In the background, it says that, like the slender stalks of bamboo, you too can stand tall, rooted deeply, and ready to sway. And what that means is that when things happen, I can, like a bamboo, be flexible and agile, but not break. I can bend, but not break. This is a physical thing for me right now, of course, this has like metaphors in it, and I could use this in some other way, but right now I'm using it like I want to feel like a bamboo in my physicality. So I'm intending that for 2026.
I love that. That's a great one. All right, let's go on to number two. Do you ready to go on to number two?
Number two is emotional and mental well-being together. They reinforce each other. They certainly influence each other. They are two separate categories of health, mental health and emotional health. Um, Certainly, we can respect them independently, but I think of them for the purpose of this vision boarding as a set. And I would love to, so I'm just going to jump straight into the example and inviting our listeners and watchers to come up with their own. I'd like to in 2026 really feel like my system is stabilized. So I would like to, for my emotional and mental well-being, to really master the nervous system. What that means for me is that I'd love to be able to, even more quickly than before, pick up on the signals. So if I'm starting to feel a little bit of tunnel vision, to not ignore it and notice, aha, this is stress response. I encountered something that activated the amygdala, and the amygdala says danger, danger, but it's really subtle. Let's say I'm still in a conversation and everything's kind of normal, but just a little bit of tunnel vision. I'm getting destabilized, deregulated, dysregulated. I want to learn how to do that. So I'm stabilizing the system. That's my emotional and mental well-being focus. That's my second area. The
Okay.
card I'm pulling represents this, shows the solar system. It has these beautiful planets, but it says on the back that you have to really, with respect, treat all of your systems, your respiratory system, your digestion, and your nervous system, because all of this needs to be in harmony for you to feel well.
Yeah, so you know what I was thinking as you were talking about that
Tell me,
was
yeah,
also
what came up?
the fight, flight, and freeze, right?
Mhm.
Like for me, that was something that I would want to work on, right? Like it's the same sort of thing you're talking about, but I know when I get in that fighting mood, right, that it makes me want to go the other direction or just stop. But to really think about what I could change or take that step back, right, is part of my emotional well-being because
Yeah,
clearly I'm having a response to that.
yeah. Do you know about the fourth F of those? There's fight,
No.
flight, freeze. There's fawn. So when we're people pleasing, and you start like amping that up, that's also a stress response. It is a signal that, okay, I don't feel that you are safe. So I'm going to activate a strategy of I'm going to help make you feel better so that you don't hurt me. So I start being like, oh, this is so nice. I'm so
Yeah.
content. It's so
You know,
good.
I'm
Right.
actually really happy to hear you talk about that because I did not
Mhm,
know about fawn, but
mhm.
totally makes sense in a lot of ways,
Right.
right? So, and I think it's something a lot of us struggle with, honestly, right? Is that whole kind of response. So that's what came
Yeah.
up for me. Okay,
Well, it's
let's go on to
interesting.
number.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
that just one quick note, because I think you
sure.
brought up something really important. Societally, culturally, if you get angry, right? So you go into fight mode, not acceptable. If you go into fawn mode, very acceptable in the like in some of the
Yeah, but that's
settings,
not good
right?
for me
But
necessarily.
either one, right? They're both
Yeah,
really not good for you, right?
yeah,
So
right.
so in if they're coming from this, they have their
Yeah,
purpose and so on. So really a good idea to learn about them. That's my intention for emotional mental well-being, really
awesome.
mastering it. Spiritual well-being, one does not have to be in any way, spiritual in order to pay attention to this. I'd call this like connection with something bigger than just my left brain. So maybe you reframe this one and it's nature, and it's just a sense of like larger community with the whole planet. But this is something that can be also very much related to a religion that you are a part of, any traditions that you do, something that gets you experiencing there's more than just me, myself, and I, and
Yeah.
my problems here. And it starts to give you a sense of like, actually, maybe on some bigger level, it's all okay.
Yeah,
So,
you said it. For me, that this brings up the harmony conversation.
yeah,
And you said that
right.
word, and that's what really stuck out for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have some practices that I do that really help me activate that connection really fast. And for me, the symbol of that is here in the card that's called Truth Prevails. It actually looks the same as Courageous Being logo because the logo came out of me asking our designer, Kristen, to help me depict Croatian sunset. When I sit on
Mm.
that eastern coast, and I look at the sunset, it's no joke. There's like seriously no filters. Everything turns orange and purple and just incredible colors as that sun dips into the Adriatic. And when I watch that, it doesn't matter what's happening in my life. I feel like, and best show on the planet, you know? So I love that feeling. I want to keep promoting that feeling in my life and looking for it in a cup of tea and, a nice walk or a good
Yep.
conversation with a friend. So,
Yep.
but being intentional about it and really practicing it. And maybe even making sure that on an annual basis, I do go and see that sunset because for my life, there's no medicine like being there in Istria
Yep.
and seeing it.
For sure. Okay,
You
number four. Let's go on to
you
number four.
mentioned the word harmony, right? So the fourth category is relational well-being. This is where you would have all of your relationships. And if you wanted to then kind of like branch out and subcategorize them, absolutely go ahead. So romance, partnership of with someone who is the closest person in your life. Maybe it is a more traditional marriage. Maybe it's a specific someone who is a dependent and there's a great closeness, your kids, your pets. But relational well-being, what do you want to create in 2026 for your relationships to thrive? I'm picking one representation of that. It's a card that has this beautiful visual imagery of this I how would I describe this? It's like a star that is emanating this
Yeah.
field of happiness, and it's just amazing. You have to see it like with all these golden bedazzles, and it says radiate harmony. So stop striving for perfect balance and instead focus on integrating so that when your mind, body, spirit are in harmony, you are feeling inner peace and then you're naturally radiating that outward. So I basically want to be that for my relationships. I want to be the source of harmony.
Well, and your relationships really are a central piece of your own well-being, right? If those aren't healthy or those are not working, right? Like everything's off because my
Yeah.
relationships with friends, with my spouse, give my life meaning, right? Like they're
Hmm.
very meaningful and they have to be strong and you have to work through that. I mean, it doesn't mean everything's perfect every day or you never fight or any of those things, but it's all about having that working together. So I think that one's so important.
That was just such a great little example of like how would something like this be helpful? Let's say I have this in front of me. I have the card in front of me. I have my or just the words radiant harmony. And let's say I'm in the middle of a mundane day and it's like an afternoon and I'm starting to get stressed about something and I want to go into complaining and blaming. If I see this, it may help me snap out of it, maybe go more, gratitude orientation. Maybe it helps me like in order to radiate harmony, I have to be really clear. I have to be
Yep.
clear with what I need. Maybe it doesn't mean not getting into a conversation is difficult, but
Yep.
coming from a place of like, wait, I actually want, peace here between us, not conflict,
Yep.
but this can remind me. Same thing when it comes to the fifth category, financial well-being. So anything that has to do with abundance, with livelihood, with your career can go into this area, work. And I am picking a line with abundance. There's a green card with a golden brain that that says that it's really important to notice whether you're running on some scarcity mindset on the inside and address that. And then also really getting clear what does so for me this is exactly what I'm focusing on. I need to just keep paying attention to thoughts that I've learned to think about scarcity. I have good reasons why those still come up. So for me, financial well-being really has to do with an attitude towards it. But for
Yeah.
you or for somebody else, it could really be very technical, very
Well,
mechanical.
and I was gonna say it's that I need to be in control of whatever that looks
Mm,
like, right?
mhm.
Right. And we're different. in that way because I'm very, control oriented and, very kind of exacting, but it is me just knowing and understanding and being where I need to be and I'm comfortable, whatever that looks like. So I think it is a very important one. For me, it means that at the beginning of this year, I sit down and review my budget, right? Which,
Hmm.
just so I kind of know or think about things I'm saving for or whatever that looks like, right? And it can look like a lot of different things.
That is such a great segue into the last category, which is organizational well-being, which is where you can consider anything where you would really benefit for being, clear and more organized.
Yep.
It could be your spaces. It could be, we could be talking clutter here at home or at work. We could be talking just, digital data, so digital clutter, photos, and, like getting organized in that way. It could be exactly what you're saying related to financial well-being. Maybe I have to sit down, organize the budget. And for me, I'm picking exactly, right? So
Yeah.
those can be going together. I picked for myself for 2026, set a limit for organizational well-being, and it's a card that also has to do with time. Time is a most precious asset, the text says, a currency that cannot be reclaimed once spent. And when you set loving boundaries, you're not just marking the hours of the day, you're honoring your own sacred cycle. So when you have healthy limits, that's for your highest good. You treasure time and then you stop running on empty. And then you find yourself more energized and more supple and adaptable.
Actually, I really love that one. I loved the words on that one because I think it's so true, right? We can never get the time we have back and think about how you're spending that time, right? It's about organizing. To me, it's organizing my life in such a way, right? I love the saying that I'm not going to sit on my deathbed and say I wish I would have worked more. So, right, I'm right. I mean, that's not what people say. And
Right.
that organizational could encompass so many things. It could also
Hmm.
encompass our social time. Are we spending enough time with family, with friends, with our spouse, with, those kind of things, or, doing the budget things or whatever that looks like. But I think that is to me part of my organizational part of my life.
Exactly. And these things can change. It's like this is like you do this one
Yeah.
time at the start of the year. Maybe you look at it later and be like, oh, now I'm, 3 months in, 6 months in. I think I got this down. Like I am setting a limit. My schedule is organized. I'm, not spilling over with some,
Yeah.
responsibilities that are not my work, let's say.
Yeah.
Uh, I have a tendency to sometimes, be just really very generous with my time. And I know we are also coming up on time. So
Yeah. No.
there's a reason our podcast is short and sweet, right?
Because we keep it on
Yeah,
time. Yeah, no,
totally,
for
totally.
sure.
But I have one last recommendation, and that is
Sure.
to pick one image or affirmation or symbol that then summarizes the six for you. Because you can
Yep.
go, really kind of a bit dispersed if you're just thinking about the six. So I love, how would you summarize all this? For me, it's full body yes. So 2026 is my full body yes year. It's another depiction in the card of the Mediterranean sunset, but there are these two dolphins just leaping out of the the sea
Yeah.
with pure joy. So I want this to be my guiding light for next year. And if I'm not feeling like this, I am noticing and I want to be like making changes and adjustments. Let's say that if I don't feel like a full body yes about my budget, it means I need to spend more time with it and, look at some
Yep.
stuff or about my relationships. So full
No.
body
Uh,
yes for all intention.
okay. A great recap. I'm going to just recap them very quickly. The six for our listeners. So they are: number one was physical well-being. Two is emotional well-being. Number three was spiritual well-being. Number four is relational well-being. Number five is financial well-being, and number six is organizational well-being. All important, all have a role. Like Evie says, pick one, do something. And to me, right, sitting down and really doing that and being intent, having that intention, it becomes my guiding light, right? It helps me focus and not be distracted, but it also may help me open up to something I never considered before, something that maybe is sitting right there in front of you that you want to accomplish in 2026 or think about. So, right, that's what I think. So, I hope our listeners got something from this. I hope you'll take the time to sit down and figure out what that looks like for you. Evie, what are your final thoughts on this?
That I can't wait to find out what your intention is going to be. So maybe,
Yeah.
it's something that we can share on social media, or
Yeah.
I'll just bug you to tell us. But because now everybody knows my 2026
I
intentions,
know.
I
And
can't wait to
I
find
guess
out
I
yours.
really, yeah, I need to go through the process to figure out
Uh-huh.
what mine really is for this year. I haven't thought that far ahead, but I will. I promise you I will. And I promise you that we will share that on social media when I have figured that out. But it is important. It is something I feel strongly about is setting my intention.
Great. Thank you for the conversation. It's so fun. And yes, now I have, everybody to hold me accountable. So
That's right. And
love it.
sometimes accountability is what we need. So
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, awesome. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this week's episode of Step into the Pivot. We're so happy to have you here. Happy 2026. We have a great list of guests coming up this year. Again, I can't believe it's our third year, but I so enjoy doing this and hope you all enjoy it too. And remember, if you have a pivot, step into it.